Welcome to the Association of American Law Schools annual meeting press briefing. I'm Jim Greif, Director of Communications for AALS. Today we will hear from 2015 AALS President, President-elect, and Executive Director as they share their visions for advancing legal education. Speaking today, we have Blake Morant, 2015 AALS President, less than 24 hours in the role, and Dean of George Washington University Law School. We also have Kellye Testy, 2016 AALS President and current President-elect, also less than 24 hours in the role, and Dean of the Dean of the University of Washington School of Law, and AALS Executive Director Judith Areen, less than a year in the role as Executive Director. After the brief remarks, we'll take some questions from reporters in the room, and then our guests on the phone. I'll now turn the microphone over to AALS President Blake Morant.
Thank you so much, Jim, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us in our press conference. Microphone seems to be failing us a little bit. Just as Jim said, it's an honor for me to take on this role as president of the Association of American Law Schools. As Jim said, I have not been the president 24 hours yet, but I will say to you that these are exciting times in American legal education, very interesting times, as I might say it in other ways. We're very excited about this in a number of different, for a number of different reasons. First of all, we see American legal education evolving. It has evolved from the beginning of this country. It is continuing to evolve. The catalyst for the acceleration of that evolution has been the downturn since 2008. Law schools all over the country are responding to that evolution in a variety of different ways. We're looking forward to highlighting that this year and certainly at our annual meeting in 2016 that takes place in New York. And we're looking forward to working with our member schools to help them during these very challenging times, becoming more of a resource for our member schools as we move along. So I look forward to speaking with you, hearing your questions, and I now bring to the podium one of my esteemed colleagues who is the President-elect of the association, Kellye Testy. Kellye?
Well, good morning. I'm also really pleased to be here and be able to talk with you about legal education. This has been just a wonderful conference that we've had here in Washington, D.C. over the last few days. And even though I came into the conference just so excited about some of the changes and innovations that I was seeing in legal education, I leave the conference even more excited about the future of legal education in America and indeed around the world. And I want to share just a couple things that I think came out of the conference that are particularly exciting. And I would say the first is that to see the breadth of innovation going on in our law schools is just tremendous. One of the things about change is that it can be initially, of course, a little scary. But change is disruptive in a good sense. It opens up the space for innovation and for new opportunities. And so it's wonderful to see our law schools stepping in to make sure that they're delivering even more value to our students in all that they do. And just to see that deep commitment to helping our students achieve their goals and to take their place in the world. One of the related points that I am so pleased to see is that I've often noted that law is sometimes seen too narrowly as being just about dispute resolution, when in fact, law is what sets the very infrastructure for human flourishing around the world. And we all know that this is a time in our world when there's deep inequality, so many challenges in areas like health and environment and business, economic development, and the use of technology. And so to see our law schools recognizing even more the breadth of the contributions that lawyers make to justice and equality in all areas of law, of business, and of public policy is just incredibly heartening because we all know that our world needs that contribution. And then lastly, I would note that I'm also so pleased to see the increasing partnerships with the law schools in the United States with law schools all around the world. And this is something that creates the possibilities for even a greater commitment to global justice because the creativity, the dedication to ethics, the dedication to justice that we see here in the U.S. law schools is certainly shared in all countries around the world. And so I'm really excited to see the opportunities that opens up for us to explore as we deepen those partnerships with our partners in other nations. So it is wonderful to be here with you, and I look forward to talking with you more conversationally in the question and answer period as well. Thank you. Let me transition to our wonderful Executive Director, Judith Areen.
Hi, everybody. I'm such a last-minute add-on that there's no bio of me. I remain a faculty member at Georgetown, where I have been for the last 40 years, and you can dial up a bio there. I am on leave. They've been very gracious, and there's a tradition of that, and since last February have been serving in this role. And I'm here because we have an amazing executive committee and officers to go with. And in Blake and Kellye, we see the future unfolding. And by that I mean they envision change in the association to address the issues that are raised by all the change that's going on in legal education itself. Our core purpose is to advance excellence in legal education, and we have a new mission statement, and it's in your press packet, so I won't quote it, but it elaborates on that concept of things we can do together with our 178 member law schools that no one law school can do by itself. There's 3 ways in which we are trying to better serve our member law schools. The first is we're improving the professional development we offer. As I talk with deans, I mention to them the faculty is, of course, their most important asset. That's really who the law school is. That's their future. And if you are hiring a new faculty member, perhaps in a field no one else in the faculty is in that field, how are you going to help them develop into being the kind of teacher and scholar and maybe one day administrator? And that's what the AALS is all about, and we are trying to use our meetings to further that concept so that faculty can connect with other scholars, other teachers in their field, and in that connection, the very best ideas can be shared. Secondly, we're trying increasingly to be a national platform for our 178 member law schools, and by that I mean we want to showcase what they are doing. Their innovations, their accomplishments. And we're doing that increasingly through our website, which was changed quite dramatically at the end of September. And Regina Birch, our wonderful associate director, just arrived and made that happen. And we're even doing it on social media. I've learned to tweet in the past year. And as part of that, we are retweeting and reposting accomplishments of our member schools. So it makes our website and our social media points an easy way for you to have access to all 178 member law schools without having to necessarily follow each of them yourself. Third, our WISE Executive Committee has said you need to be a better voice for legal education. There's misinformation out there. And we think the best way to respond to that is not to be defensive. Of course, we can always do better. But we want to proffer, if you will, in legal terms, a more balanced and a more up-to-date view of what is actually going on in legal education. So again, a central source for that is the new website, which features changing information about our member schools and, again, social media. This past year, to support it, I'll mention a couple of things that have changed in the past year. We have our first ever Chief Information Officer, Pablo Molina, and it's one of the reasons we have our first ever mobile app at this meeting. We have our first ever Director of Communications, and since September, beginning of September, Jim Greif has been in that role, and as you can tell, is organizing ways of communicating we've not had in the past. Third, we've organized the deans of the member schools in a new way. We call them the Dean's Forum. So rather than simply being a section, that means they can get together for a longer period of time. There's all these rules about meetings. And I'm very proud to report we had more than 142 of our member deans at this meeting. I think that's probably a record. It shows how seriously they take the issues facing legal education, how much they benefit from working with one another, just as faculty do, and we're glad to help support that. In the future, more and more effective communication is a chief goal for us, and to extend our partnerships with the ABA section, with the bar, with the bench, and as Kellye has just reminded us, with scholars in schools overseas. A lot going on. I'm delighted you're here. Thank you.
And we'll now start the question and answer period with reporters in the room. Sure, Karen.
So how do you make the case to potential students that A, legal education is evolving, and B, that this is a wise investment for them? Because, I think the website is great. I don't know if that prospective students really know about what the AALS is tweeting, or how do you sort of get beyond the audience of just educators?
Okay, I don't know whether I should stand, so I should take the microphone. Yeah, I like the presence. That's a wonderful question, Karen, and I appreciate you saying that. One of the things that really becomes very clear is that we have 178 member schools all over the country that are evolving, as I said in my introductory comments. Students today find their information in a variety of different ways. You will find that many law schools are publicizing on their websites and making sure that students understand the kind of education that they receive at these schools. I think it's very important to recognize that having all of these law schools throughout the country means that there are a variety of law schools that appeal for a variety of different reasons for student concerns. And so there's some law schools that may be regional, there's some law schools that are much more national. And so there's a variety out there to really appeal to the needs of students who are there. Now, specifically with regard to the evolution, many of the law schools that we're talking about in terms of making sure that students are prepared for what I consider to be a very complex, global, and diverse market, are offering many more programs that give them the understanding of how doctrine works from the classroom into the real world. Many of these programs have been historic, such as our clinical programs at many law schools. But as I talked about the evolution of American legal education, many law schools now are offering even greater experiential opportunities to their students. Students today are very savvy. They're seeking those kind of opportunities in a variety of different ways. And so I'm seeing our member schools highlight these things on their websites. We're also seeing that, as Judy had pointed out before, the association's website is beginning to put a lot of the various things that are happening at these law schools on our websites. And I will tell you as a dean, and I was dean at Wake Forest Law School before becoming dean at the George Washington Law School, students come in with a variety of questions focused in on how am I going to be prepared for a complex market. And so I have seen our member schools be very, very forthcoming with regard to the curricular innovations and the programs that they give in order to address that.
Karen, I would just add a couple points to that, which is that I really celebrate the increased transparency that is present now in terms of students thinking carefully about what career that they want to pursue, whether it's law or another kind of graduate degree. There's so much information available for students, and they're so savvy about how to get that in terms of where they want to attend law school and some ideas about what they might want to do with their degree. So one of the things that, having been in legal ed now for over 20 years that I'm seeing is that the students that are coming into law school today really understand the investment they're making, and they understand more what's going to be asked of them and what the opportunities are for them as they graduate. And I believe that our law schools today are also doing a much better job of helping students see the wide variety of careers that that legal educated people do pursue. That's been true forever, that many people that get a law degree may not go to a law firm and practice in a traditional way. They may be in business or in public policy or something else. I think most of our member schools are doing an excellent job of helping make that more more easily for students to see, and then support that vision within the curriculum and also in the co-curricular and extracurricular activities, so they can start to, make those professional networks that will help them move into whatever field it is that they seek to join.
Just a real short add-on. There's a statement about the value of legal education that 14 of our member deans put together. You'll find it up on the website. And one of the points they make that Kellye raised, I want to underscore, there's been a tendency of late to define very narrowly that a job counts only if you are in court in a JD required position. Well, as a former dean, I would go out and meet regularly with alumni who had never functioned in that kind of job, but had gone into business, into this sector, into that sector. We live in a town with many people who have never practiced law in a traditional sense. And they would say to me repeatedly, but I use my legal education every day. So I agree, it's about transparency and helping the students as they come in to be clear about how they intend to use this degree.
Any additional questions from the room?
The only thing I keep on hearing is the legal market's changed dramatically, and it's going to continue to change dramatically with technology, those kinds of things, and that no matter what legal education does, you can't fix what the legal market is doing, how it's evolving. So how do you square up with that? I mean, you're creating graduates who are entering a field where the legal market's depressing, regardless of what you guys do.
Well, Mike, that's a very interesting question, because I think history basically shows that the market with legal services has evolved for hundreds of years. And one of the things that has happened as a result of that is that lawyers coming out of law school have had to be prepared for that particular change. I think one of the things that's really dynamic about what's going on in American legal education now is that you're finding enriched curriculums all over the country that basically prepare students for a variety of different changes that go on in the law. Now, as you talk about the legal market in and of itself, we all know that legal services morph, they change. But at the same time, there's certain basic skills, there's certain basic knowledge that students need, and the nuance, the different skill sets that are needed brought on by technology and other types of new modalities have really infiltrated themselves into the educational market. And so you're finding, I think, with the evolution of American legal education, as I mentioned in my opening statement, that variety of different curricular innovations that basically give students that opportunity. And if I might, from that question, I will also say that because of the changes in the market, because the changes in the market have been very, very vast in terms of becoming much more global, becoming much more fluid. We're noticing that careers change over time. And what I'm noticing in terms of what our member schools are doing, and we've seen this at my own schools, the one that I'm here now at George Washington and also at Wake Forest, students are beginning to understand, and schools are beginning to educate them on the fact that careers are a journey. Many individuals will start in a particular career, but that may not be the ultimate job that they have at the end of their careers. The key is having the skill sets and having the training that's necessary that prepares you for that journey. And that's one of the things that's so exciting about some of the changes that are going on in many of our member schools.
I would also put it this way. There is an incredible access to justice gap, an incredible undersupply of justice in our world, and certainly in our, every state in America and the United States. And so what we need to be watchful for is the changing way that law-educated people can make a difference in that and close that gap. And so in some segments of our markets, there, and mostly in large law firms, there are declining employment opportunities. But at the very same time, in many states, you'll see 70 to 90% of people who are unrepresented by a lawyer in very fundamental cases like family law or housing matters or whatever it might be. So I'm actually super excited about the potential for technology to help close that access to justice gap. And so our task as legal educators is to help with that transformation and to really understand that while there might be a decline in the number of law firm jobs, there is not a decline in the law work that needs to be done. And we need to help configure our schools and help our graduates prepare to do that work where it needs to be done. And I think just generally speaking that what I see is law becoming so much more embedded everywhere. So that as an example, in my own market in Washington State, some of our largest law firms, in quotes, are departments within companies or departments in public organizations. And so as we see the evolution of that employment market, our job, and I think we're ready to really step into it, is to retool how we're approaching it so we can make sure that supply and demand are converging.
Great. Any additional questions from the floor? We'll now take questions from our guests on the phone. Any additionals from our guests on the phone?
This is Katie Mangan, this is the Chronicle of Higher Education. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can you tell me about some of the curricular changes you're seeing to address the changes in the legal market? Like, what are some of the law schools doing to prepare students for different kinds of jobs than the traditional law firm jobs they might have gone into previously?
Katie, thank you so much for that question. One of the things that I've noticed is that there are 178 member schools doing a variety of different things in terms of making sure that students are getting the kinds of skill sets that are needed to go out in a very complex market. I couldn't cite you all of the programs that are going forward, but let me sort of categorize them thusly. One of the things that we hear continuously from individuals who are in the working market is that they want students to be much more, as they call it, practice ready. Now, that's a very, very euphemistic term for what we consider to be making sure that students have a better sense of what it takes to become a professional. And so one of the things that all of our member schools are doing, and this is what's so exciting about seeing the evolution of American legal education, is that a number of the initiatives that are going on at many member schools are heightening the skill levels of our students to become better professionals. Now, what do we mean by that? Because many of those programs invoke the idea of showing the synergies between what they learn in the classroom and how it works in the real world, whether that be through externships, enhanced clinical programs that do transactional work. And every law school that I know in the country, in particular our member schools, have enhanced their pro bono opportunities for students, which gives students not only the opportunity to see what kinds of skills and exercise skills for individuals who can't afford legal or traditional legal services are now having their skill sets exercised in terms of interpersonal skills, writing skills, recognizing the entrepreneurial aspects of the profession. So if I were to categorize all of the programs that I've witnessed so far, they basically have that characteristic, which is heightening the professional skills of our students so that when they get out, regardless of whatever job they have, they'll have not only the acumen to know how to do legal work, but they also have a great appreciation of the professional skill levels in order to do it effectively.
I agree so much with what Blake said, and let me add just 3 other points. One is that one of the innovations that I'm really excited about is that the problems that we're addressing in society are so complex, and what we've realized is that they require not only the problem solving or traditional legal skills, but they often require deep knowledge in a particular field to be really effective. And so one of the innovations that I'm seeing that I really love are more interdisciplinary interdisciplinary programs where, for instance, somebody can get deep knowledge in the health field and then the legal training to be really effective in health or global health, or get deeper knowledge in some of the other STEM fields like science and technology plus law that can really help them be more effective in being a problem solver in that field. So that's one thing, is just more of a law, and so that deep knowledge is there, plus the classic problem solving and skills of a lawyer. The second that I really see, and Blake I think really hit on this, is not only the traditional skills that we think of in legal education, like problem solving or negotiation or communication skills, but understanding that to be effective as a lawyer, you also need other skills like business literacy, scientific and technological literacy, and leadership. Leadership development is increasingly taught in law schools, and I think that's a great change. And then finally, we'd be remiss in not mentioning that many of our schools are now offering alternative degree formats. For instance, at UW, we have a new master's degree in law and policy for people who could contribute to closing that access to justice gap, maybe not as a full-fledged lawyer, a JD credentialed or bar credentialed lawyer, but who work in a field that has legal elements to it, like compliance or HR or something of that nature. So I think that the new degree formats are also going to be very helpful in addressing the needs of society for legal assistance.
Both Kellye and I are a tag team on this because this is really a very interesting topic. Let me also say, Katie, you've also opened the door to looking at these programs in terms of bringing more of the profession into the law school. So what do I mean by that? I've already indicated that many of the programs that are being originated by our member schools exercise professional skills. But if you look across the transit of them, many of those programs are bringing more of the profession in terms of individuals who practice in these areas. If you look at curricula all over the country, many courses are either taught as adjuncts by those actively in the fields, and so as a result of that, many specialty fields are being brought into the school by actual practitioners. And then some of the special programs that law schools are doing are basically bringing them in to interact with law students to really acquaint them with the professional skills that they need. So, for example, there are a couple of law schools that have professional development courses that involve not only the full-time faculty involved in the discussion of the profession itself and what's needed in order to succeed in it, but they have modules that will bring actual practitioners in to interact with students, to talk with them about the various skill sets that they need in order to really be successful. One of those programs that has been fairly remarkable have been those that have actual courses that do them. I know the Wake Forest Law School has it, Indiana Law School has one as well. And I'm seeing all across the transit law schools innovating programs to make sure that students understand the current diversity of practice that's out there. So at the law school where I am now, the George Washington Law School, it has an Ends of Court program where first-year students are basically paired in small groups, and practitioners from a variety of different fields in the District of Columbia come in and interact with the students, educating them not only on the breadth of opportunity that's out there, but the skill sets that are needed for them to succeed once they graduate.
And we have time for about...
I just want to follow up on something that Kellye was talking about, the new degree formats. Are there other degree formats aside from the JD for students who are interested in gaining more legal knowledge but not necessarily pursuing a JD?
Yes, it's really gratifying to see so much innovation in our member schools in various forms of master's degrees. And then I'll also mention one other innovation, which is that Washington State was the first state to authorize what's known as a limited license legal technician. And that's someone who can conduct a limited form of practice in a particular area, and in this case, family law, to help close that access to justice gap that I was mentioning. And so the curriculum for that is one then that we designed, and many states now are looking at authorizing a limited license practitioner because of the concerns about so many citizens and people in the United States going without legal representation. So I imagine that we'll see increasing opportunities around the country in that as well. And then third, I think we are seeing more and more joint degrees because, again, as we recognize that students many times need not only the ability to do the classic skills of a lawyer, but also can really couple that with knowledge in maybe public health or business or other fields. Some really exciting joint degree programs are also out there in our member schools. Blake, you may have other things you're aware of too.
Kellye's done a wonderful job of encapsulating many of the degree programs that are out there. I just wanted to add to that, one of the things that's part of the evolution of American legal education are really the innovations that are coming about in terms of meeting market demand. And one of the things that we've said, Kellye mentioned it in her comments, master's degrees, you'll notice that a number of member schools have had huge growth in the number of degrees for individuals who don't necessarily want to become lawyers. They could after pursuing a master's, but many of them who might be in such fields as accounting, the health profession, whether they work in HR departments, are pursuing degrees in order to really enhance their understanding of the regulatory norms and how to perform various functions within their jobs that have the skill sets that basically law schools give them. Those have grown immensely over the last several years and have been immensely popular. I also want to bring out the fact that law schools have traditionally had an advanced degree for individuals who already have a JD degree, typically called the LLM degree. Usually they're in specialties. And one of the questions we had earlier was about how do you have training for individuals for the basic changes that come with regard to the legal profession. And we're seeing a growth in the number of specialty LLM degrees that basically give practicing lawyers the opportunity to come back, get training or expertise in a particular area, and then go out and really have the skill sets in order to really do that. And if I could take this opportunity as well, I think this relates to one of the questions that came up earlier. Technology has had a huge impact with regard to the delivery of services and how our member schools are actually educating our students. And so one of the things that you might want to do as you're looking across the transit at various websites and our website as well is to see how remarkable that has been in terms of not only educating our students, but creating opportunities. So as a result of that, I think, let me give you one example. E-discovery, which is really taking hold in a very, very big way in the litigation field, has now become a course at many law schools, being taught by individuals who have experience with it, often taught in tandem with standing professors or full-time professors who are there. It also gives the students not only an expertise with regard to this new innovation, but it also gives individuals who are teaching in law school another way of really envisioning the traditional way in which they've taught their courses. Also the delivery of services. So many of the experiential opportunities that students now have are delivered person to person, but they are also delivered with technology. So there are a number of member schools that are reaching out in their pro bono programs to areas far outside of their law schools to offer legal services to those individuals who may not be very close to. So all of this sort of encapsulates the really exciting opportunities that are there, and it'll be great to see this continue to evolve.
Great, and we have time for about one more question.
This is my first meeting. I'm Ryan with Areen inside Higher Ed. The various higher ed associations have various ways of policing their members, and I'm wondering, as the market changes and some law schools are doing mistakes with a lower profile than they would have in the past, beyond best practices, what is your association prepared to do about players that are deploying perhaps questionable practices?
I'll start with Judy.
We're unlike most of our counterparts in higher ed in that from the beginning, and we were founded in 1900, we've always paired with the accreditor. And the accreditor of law schools is the section of legal education of the ABA. And every 7 years, every member school, well, every law school in the country, but all of our members, are visited by a joint site team. So it's ABA, AALS. The accreditor is doing it for the federal standards, you understand accreditation. We are there, and our focus is on peer review on our core values. And our core values focus on academic standards, on teaching, on scholarship, inclusiveness, diversity, faculty, students, staff. And we then work with our member schools. That's why I emphasize that it's peer review in contrast to the accreditor who just sends strong letters, to continue to maintain and build quality. Have we ever taken the step to call out a member school? And the answer is you can look at our website and you will find that there are 2 schools that have been censored within the last 4 years.
Great. With no additional questions, this concludes our press conference. Thank you for attending.